Sorry.
Hey guys, we're just about to go into a meeting with Krystine McInnes from Growing Here Farms. We're going to be talking about entrepreneurship, what drives her, what made her start this business. Hope you guys enjoy and learn something. Started doing interviews over the last month or so. So you're number 2.
Oh, hey, I'm in. I'm down.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
What's it called? Grow Your Own?
Grown Here.
Growing Here, sorry. Yeah, Growing Here.
Grown Here Farms, yeah. I laugh about being a farmer because I'm not a farmer.
Yeah.
Don't know how to farm to save my life.
Yeah.
It's like, now I'm a farmer. I'm like, yeah, I guess I am. I don't know if I would call myself a farmer. Well, when I was young, my dad used to have a garden in the backyard, and it wasn't a big garden. It was just like a small garden. We had like strawberry. I don't know if they're called strawberry plants or bushes, but you know, like, and the peas.
Trees.
Strawberry trees. Did you know pineapples grow out of the ground?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Do you know that?
No.
Yeah, they grow in bushes. And you think they would grow out of trees, right?
Okay, wait. I might sound really stupid here. I thought pineapples came from palm tree.
Nuh-uh. Nuh-uh.
No?
They grow out of the ground, like, in these bushes.
So
They're
what's
like
in the palm trees then? They go
coconuts.
Is that coconut?
It's coconuts. I know. See, right? We don't know these things because we're so, like, disconnected from our food.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. Yeah, it is coconut.
Yeah,
They spin it and they break it off.
Yeah. Like, crack it open. But anyway, I remember that as a kid, we used to go get snap peas.
Yeah.
And we'd, like, spend hours, like, collecting peas and eating them. And it was, like, the best thing ever.
So, tell me what you do.
What we do?
Yeah.
Some days I question that. I don't know what we do. So we have our organic farms up in Coston, which is in the South Okanagan.
Okay.
And then I have a greenhouse down here in Abbotsford.
Okay.
So we do like beets and onions and carrots and squash.
Yeah.
And all organically. And then out of our greenhouse we do packaged greens, organic greens, and tea and preserves. So we do kind of a combination of ground crop and then some consumer goods production.
What do you do with that? Do you, like, is it retail or?
Yeah, we mostly sell to like grocers in Vancouver or distributors. Yeah. So we're the largest organic farm outside of Vancouver, so we've got quite a bit of volume. Yeah, it's a big operation.
Okay.
So we sell to basically every grocer in Vancouver for the most part has one of our organic products.
One of the SKUs.
Yeah, most of them I'd say. Like we about 80% of our production comes here. Only a small percent actually stays in the Okanagan, and then the rest goes to Calgary. So
you got teas, huh?
Yeah, we sure do. Organic teas.
Let me know where to get it. I'll go pick some up.
Oh, I'll bring you some. I don't have any with me clearly, but I'll bring you some. Yeah, they're awesome. So we do like a loose leaf tea blend. Yeah. And they're all based on Chinese medicine. So the idea is that we have a bioactive tea line, so it's like reishi mushroom, pu'er. I don't know if you know pu'er's like. If you're a tea geek, you'll know. Yeah,
I'm not a tea geek. I just like the taste of some of them.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't know that they were spraying all this pesticide or like whatever it's called, like all these chemicals on it, and then they're just drying it, putting it in bags, and then.
I know. So I was looking at juices, and I went on this like complete tirade because I'm like, you cannot call that healthy. Yeah. Just because it's juice doesn't make it healthy.
I seen that post today.
Yeah, I was so pissed because I'm like, we just don't think about it, right? Yeah. You're like, right, that's just basically a bunch of chemicals compressed into a quote-unquote healthy juice. It's like, that's not.
Don't look at that garbage can today.
But the crazy part about it is like if you're not conscious, because I do it all the time too. I'm like, oh, it's green, so that must mean that it's healthy. Yeah. And then you're like, right, just because it's juice doesn't mean that it's healthy. It's like
just because it says healthy or natural doesn't mean it's healthy or natural.
Yeah, and you do forget because you're kind of in this like slumber of like, oh, it looks healthy, or they have like a nice like picture of an apple on it, and then you think it's good for you, and then you see if like what's actually going on, which
it's got to come off your own tree, put into the Vitamix. Yes, Vitamix. You know, send us a message. We want to talk to you.
Then Vitamix.
Vitamix, yes. And it goes in there, and you grind it and add your own stuff in there. That's the only way of doing it.
Well, like, so a lot of what we're talking about as a company is around transparency. So we've been creating this. So we do everything like Puritan, earth, or like our organic soil, Mother Nature, organic non-GMO seeds. Like that's all that we have in our products. So that's all kind of Puritan, old school, and then we're building this technology application. Mm-hmm. So the technology is about kind of like cloud-based, consumer-facing, really user-friendly integration for farmers, but also for consumers.
Okay.
So I mean, we use a fancy word called full-spectrum product traceability, which exists.
Okay.
So if you talk to, like, say, Coca-Cola or PepsiCo or whatever, they have supply chain management. Yeah. They know exactly what's in your food and exactly where it came from. Yeah. They do not want you to know that.
Exactly.
So we created this consumer-facing end where we're like, hey, I want to know what the heck is in my food, where it came from, who produced it, and how it was produced. And so we started to create, it doesn't exist right now, so we started to create it, saying you should know that. Yeah. You should know that apple was, well, I mean, we don't spray anything, but you should know that, hey, there's no chemicals on that. Pedro harvested it, and here's a photo of Pedro, and information about his family and what it means to him to be a farmer. Like I would want to know that.
I went to a butcher store,
Butcher show? That sounds traumatizing.
Butcher store.
Oh my God.
Store, shop, whatever you call it. And the person, I think in front of me, asked if you know, if you knew the animal.
Right.
Right? Like, that's specific.
Yeah.
Like, what was the name?
Right.
What breed, like everything. I was like, oh, holy smokes. Most people just go to, Safeway or Costco and pick up their meats and bring it, and that's me.
Well, I'm the same way too, right? Like, and I think the consumer's getting more conscious now because we're starting to realize, like, so there's like what you pick up on the store, and they're playing this beautiful music, and you're like, oh, it's good, everything's good, and then you're like, and you check out, and there's this disconnection. There's like this dark underbelly of how things are actually being produced before it gets to you. Yeah. And so there's more and more documentaries, and so people are starting to really ask questions and be like, wait a minute, just because it's in a pretty package, was it humanely raised? And like,
I remember that post of yours when Amazon purchased Whole Foods, right? Yeah. And then I think like the day or the next day, I was reading your event there, and that was.
Yeah, we've been nervous about it, right? Because this could be a really positive thing because they're so focused on efficiencies. They could end up creating better margins.
For distribution, yes, Amazon for sure, 100%. I get that.
But with like one stroke of a pen, they could they could wipe out an entire industry. Yeah. And it's not necessary, like Amazon themselves may find better ways to do things that are really efficient, and that's great. Yeah. But it's all of their competitors now too who are now going to be forced to drive the price to the bottom. So as a supplier, like as an organic farmer, unless we're selling all of our product to one of those grocers, we're going to now get pinched by all of those because they won't be able to compete with Amazon. So and I mean the person that always ends up getting pinched, it's just business economics, right? Like it's the guy in India who's making 40 cents a day making that t-shirt that you just paid $500 for. It is the child laborers putting those Nike shoes together. I shouldn't say Nike shoes. Yeah. You know what I mean? Those are the people that are getting pinched. It's the farmer who has a bunch of workers who likely are from a foreign country who are getting paid minimum wage and working crazy hours, hard labor to do that work. Those are all the people that end up getting pinched in decisions like that, while the consumer is really kind of oblivious to what's happening throughout that chain.
God, this is not $500. It's probably at the most maybe $20. I don't spend $500.
But we and I'm so excited about this younger generation because for the first time in history.
Y or Z? Why is that?
Well, this kind of millennial generation and further down because they're really conscious. They've grown up in an environment of like, hey, it's not okay that we've destroyed our planet and that our food's poisoned and that we're the ones that are now suffering the consequences of that. Yeah. So they're asking questions. They're more vegans. There's more transparency in the supply chain.
For sure.
Even like and again we can get so siloed in like our lives, and even like North America compared to Europe. Like, it's insane that you would spray and genetically modify and do all these crazy things that we're doing that have been normalized in North America because there are big companies with big budgets who spend a lot of money trying to convince us that it's okay. And, you know, you go to somewhere like Europe where it's like they have GMO zones, like no GMO zones. Like, it's insane that you would even think about doing those things.
Because these guys know how to brand. Right? They're branding not to, you know, the food is bad, but hey, listen, the quality of time that you have with your family, are you going to peel potatoes for 3 hours and then boil them and make mashed potatoes, or you get this little package with chemicals and you pour it in and whip it up?
And you can't even recognize any of the ingredients on the back of it, like benzotriopolide or something.
Exactly. You can't even pronounce any of those things. There's that commercial from, I think it's McDonald's right now, where grandma's sitting in a home and she's like, hey, these tenders taste the same as, these nuggets taste the same as mine. So she goes, buys it, sits at home, and then does all this stuff, hangs around people, and then at the end of the day, she's like, puts it on a plate, and here, guys, I cooked it. So that's what they're getting at, right? It's the saving the time.
That's so unfortunate.
So what made you get into this line of work?
I jokingly say naivety and stupidity. Which,
I like that.
Yeah, truthfully, I think that was probably a lot of it. I come from a background in finance and sustainable development. So we were building projects, just small boutique development projects. And I remember I built this building, and afterwards I was like, wow, that building is going to be here for 100 years or more. Like, that's insane. You know, we have a responsibility to build sustainably. Like, if you're gonna build something that's gonna have that much of an impact for that long, I felt that we had a responsibility to do it sustainably. So I was obsessed with green technologies and sustainable building, and this was like a while ago, before anybody was really the sustainable building industries was super disconnected. It was like you had to literally figure it out yourself, like wind and solar and geothermal and all these different things. And so I was so obsessed with it, and then that led me to kind of the natural next integration point, which for me was urban farm communities. So I designed a couple projects where we were integrating urban gardens, which I thought was going to be like, you know, everyone was going to freak out. And so I built this project, and it actually wasn't overly successful. It was a small project. It was in the Okanagan, but it was my first time kind of integrating urban gardens. So like urban landscaping where you could eat blueberries. It was simple. It was like what we talked about earlier, right? Like, I should be able to walk outside my door and like pick peas off of the vine and like have tomatoes that are fresh for my salad. Like that just seems natural. So that led me into urban agriculture, and then I was like, well, if that's where I want to go from a development perspective, it would this is where it went off the rails. It would make sense to own an organic farm. And then that's where this kind of stupidity, naivety curve came in, where I was like, right, having no background in farming whatsoever, not coming from a family of farmers, having no experience in farming, decided to buy an organic farm. And not just any organic farm, the largest organic farm outside of Vancouver.
Wow.
So it's an insanely massive operation. That again, I kind of went to the property, and it's almost like I was there for less than 30 seconds, and I knew I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Passion, and I'm gonna have to, like, I was compelled. I couldn't not. It was like fated to happen. So
what's your biggest why? Like, what drives you to do this? Like, did something happen, or?
No, I love the question. It's just hard to answer because it started in one place, and now it's like evolved.
I want this answer, not this answer.
Yeah, and it's hard because it's like it's a vulnerable thing to talk about. For me, it's really it's very selfish. It's extremely self-serving, and not in the sense of ego, but in the sense that I do it because it fills me up, because I'm so committed to this pursuit. And for me, it's about consciousness. So it's totally self-serving, even though what we're doing is really, you know, hopefully is really something that's going to be great in the world and help other people. But truthfully, I do it for me. You know, I do it because I'm so deeply committed to my purpose and leading a purpose-driven life and the pursuit of consciousness. So everything we do for me is about consciousness, building my consciousness forward, and that for me is the greatest.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you're giving that to another generation. You're giving that to your friends, your family around it, and then it goes from there. That's great.
Yeah, I see it like a feedback loop. I think that there was a time when I was younger that I was maybe a bit more naive, like, oh, I want to change the world, or I want to go do good in the world, and I had this, throw me into a war zone or a humanitarian crisis, like that's where I want to be. I want to help. And then I started to realize over the years that you can't sacrifice yourself. If you're not filled up and full by what you're doing, then you really can't serve anybody. And also this idea that you can help people, I think, is quite naive too, because there's nothing broken. There's this whole that's working together in this perfect rhythm. And so really all I think that we can do is keep evolving our own consciousness and keep building ourselves, and by virtue of doing that, we actually change the world and we create impact.
Exactly. I don't look at it as me changing the world. I look at it as me changing my world.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
Because when I change myself, people around me change.
Yeah.
Right? And then some will say, okay, I want to follow this path, or Sunil's an ass, I want to walk away from him. Right? And then that's the change. Even, you look at the biggest guys in the world that have the most amount of money, who probably do the most changes, probably, Bill and Melinda Gates. Right? And Bill Gates has all the money in the world to change.
Yeah.
Right? But he's changing his...
Yeah.
Right? Wherever they want to focus on, and we focus on other things to change our world, not the world.
Yeah, and it's really funny because the only thing you really can change is yourself, and I think anybody that's done work where they do want to, I think we all, in our innate nature, I believe that life is inherently good and that we all want to do good. Yeah. But the idea of kind of saving people, or that, I feel like is a fallacy. And when you really talk to people, you get to a point in your journey where you recognize, I can really only change me. Yeah. And by virtue of changing me and pursuing my own consciousness and doing things that I believe are true for me, because I think truth is also subjective. My truth might not be your truth. Yeah. We might be aligned, maybe for different reasons or different purposes, but truth is quite subjective. And so I can only live my own truth and honor myself and my path and do what I feel is the right thing to do based on my perspective of the world. And that's all I actually have the ability to influence. And then there's a ripple effect that starts to happen when you start from the center, rather than thinking that, if I go out and I do all these things and I sacrifice myself and then I'm empty and then I've got nothing and then I'm bitter and then
change
people,
within and then the ripple. Exactly, that's what it is. My mentor taught me, you're not here to save, you're here to serve. Yeah. Right? So stop the saving. And when you're going outside, you're saving. Totally. Right? Yeah. Serve by being the better person. Totally. Right? And then going out.
Yeah, and because exactly when you try to save others, it's actually also an opportunity to be a martyr and a victim, and you know
what you're doing when you're saving is you're actually hiding, or you don't want to fix the problems that you have in yourself. Yeah. Right? Yeah. It's like, let's help here, let's help here, let's help here. Yeah. That was me. Yeah. Right? And then my own problems I never dealt with.
Yeah, exactly.
It comes to a point where what's going to happen if I don't deal with it. If that's health related, you'll die. If it's family related, hey, guess what? They're going to walk away from you. Right? Or the disconnect happens there. So work on yourself. Yeah. Serve. Work on yourself and then start serving.
Yeah, and even I was just writing something earlier for. Anyway, so I was writing this bit about, it was about turning your suffering into a platform for purpose. Yeah. And so, when people talk about purpose, because it is hard, it is very personal, it's very intimate, it's between you and your life, source, whatever you want to call it. So it is very personal. But when people are confused about, what does it mean to follow your purpose? And how do I know if I've found my purpose? Or I'm confused about what that is. I always think of where's the place that you are suffering the most, and because I think our suffering is actually an indicator of where we're called to go. Because if you've suffered through something, the danger is that you stop there, right? It becomes a place of apathy. It becomes a place of being a victim. It becomes a place of kind of staying in your suffering and living your life from that place. Or you have the courage to conquer your apathy and to transform your struggle into a platform for change. And then that, again, by serving yourself, you then create this kind of opportunity for others who are struggling with that same thing or are looking for that same thing. Yeah. And then that creates all this change. And
the thing here is when somebody goes to where the problem is, they just stand there, they look, and they get scared and they run away.
Yeah.
Right? Climb it, bulldoze it, and find it, because that's where everything is, right? Everything falls apart right there if you're not going to create that. And once you create that and you get over the hump, now you can start serving.
Yeah.
And you're gonna start serving a lot. What do you do different today than you did 5 years or 10 years ago in business?
Oh, great question. So what I think is really interesting is, so I don't have any sort of like master's degree or business background.
Perfect.
Everything's kind of everything's self-taught for the most part. I have lots of mentors and coaches and people that I've worked with over the years. But the one thing I've noticed is I thought it came down to what I knew. Right, what I knew, and so I'm a voracious reader and studier, and I thought it all came down to how much I knew or how much I could force or make happen. And what I learned was it actually comes down to really intrinsic qualities that if you didn't have these kinds of supports growing up, it becomes a lot harder as an adult because you have to teach yourself. But it comes down, for me, it came down to discipline, focus, tenacity, sacrifice, commitment. And literally, those are intangible qualities that you can't learn in a book, that you can't go to school for. And it's those qualities that are today the difference for me between success and failure and how I govern myself. You know, sacrifice, what are you willing to give up to get what you want? Because it is an illusion to think you can kind of be this crazy person that parties on the weekends and doesn't give a crap after 5 p.m. and lives this crazy, this MTV reality television life and be successful. That's an illusion. That's like designed to keep you stuck. You know, you have to be willing to give up your weekends, to sacrifice certain things in order to get to where you're trying to go.
Yeah. And that's not for the rest of your life or your career. That's just in the beginning here for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
And then after that, if you want to go back to the lifestyle, fine. But you'll realize that you don't want to go back to the lifestyle because the people around you aren't there for your growth.
Yeah, exactly. I think that as a society, we've bought these delusions, of this kind of type of life that we think we're all supposed to live. And it's so easy, and it's just,
it's media.
Flip my hair, and the truth is it takes grit and determination and tenacity and commitment and focus and discipline in order to achieve anything.
The hardest thing today, and parents can say this, it's been the same for the last 15, 20, 30 years, but I think parenting today is probably more difficult than ever before. Before it was easy to just turn off the TV. Right. Today, you can take away the phones, but information is everywhere, and they're looking at this stuff on Snapchat, on Instagram, all these other, and the people that they follow, they're.
Well, and it is all this kind of illusory world, and the thing that really breaks my heart about it is that these kids are growing up thinking that, well, if I just have those things, then that's going to make me happy.
Yeah.
Like they're missing the thing that's actually going to fill them up is not the stuff. And I think that's where, they're getting off course, and more these kids are depressed and unhappy, and parents don't know what to do, but the world they're living in.
Because the parents in the same boat, right?
Yeah, and I don't have kids. I can't even imagine how difficult it would be raising kids in today's environment, because they are exposed, even from my generation to today, to so much more at such a rapid rate. I mean, they're learning things faster than their textbooks are changing to keep up. Like, it's insane what they're exposed to, and I think how stressful that must be for them, right? Because it's just all this information, and like, look at the planet, and look at the state of the world, and look at our geopolitical environment, and it's a challenging time for sure.
Yeah, because they look at the material now, right? Look at these shoes, and look at the juice bottle that person's holding in his hands, and he's got the most followers and this is the person I want to be like. Well,
yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's all about how it looks, right? So that Instagram, I'm going to try and sound cool by saying all the Snapchat words, but I don't use any of it because I don't even really understand it fully, but
use it in a good way.
Yeah.
Use it in a good way.
I don't use it personally because it's just not my thing, but you see this whole, you know, my whole life is a party, and it's like, well, but is it true? Is it true? Is it authentic? Is it really who you are? And so, you know, all this, like, it's all about the way that it looks and not about the substance of what's behind it. And anybody that's really built a fulfilling life, it's about the substance behind it. So it's the opposite of what societally we're teaching these kids with all these technologies. And even you see like kids on their iPhones all the time, and I'm guilty of that too, but they're just becoming so addicted to the technology and disconnected from the relationships and from the rest of life.
Yeah, they're just connected in a different way.
Yeah.
You know, before we used to walk around and do this, right? Now they're communicating this way. But you know what? Just put it down for 5 minutes and just look outside.
Yeah.
And just enjoy that. And probably do. We just don't see it. We see that split second when they're, you know, texting mom or dad or their friend or whatever they're doing there.
Anyway,
so if somebody wants your product
yeah,
or get a hold of you, what's the best way? And we'll have all the captions on the bottom with links and everything else.
Well, you can find us.
Yes, you can. Yes.
Buy
Please.
now, only $14.99.
Yes.
But only if you call in the next 3 minutes.
In the next 3 minutes. Yes.
GrownHereFarms.com is our website, or I think our social handle is @GrownHereFarms.
Okay.
Yeah,
we'll
you
get
can find us there. Yeah. All our deets, all our digital deets are there. Yeah.
Awesome.
All our customers and where you can find our products and stuff.
Perfect. Thanks for your time. It was perfect. Very good, Dylan.